This podcast absolutely, unequivocally, positively, 100% contains adult material. Mature audiences only, please.
Hey, welcome back to Me and Mrs. Always Right. I'm your host, Me.
And I'm Mrs. Always Right.
And we're still in that little trailer park in Denver. Turns out this is going to be part 3 of our interviews at the True Crime and Paranormal podcast.
But the thing is, you're giving these people more exposure. Not that, but they're going to have 3 more followers or 3 more people to see it because that's what we have. I feel that, who doesn't want to feel it's special, like, oh, somebody wants to interview me. You know what I mean? It's great. And you're doing a great job.
I think this is a great cross-marketing technique. And even if we only gain 2 listeners out of this, that's 2 more than we had before.
Absolutely.
And we appreciate all of y'all. So,
yes.
And in the last episode, we were talking about
crawfishing.
Yes, why?
Bets.
Oh, shit, hashtag you missed it. Real quick, this woman and I used to live just north of Pittsburgh, and it was the worst winter that I've ever spent in my entire life. Well, we rented this house that was in the middle of a fucking cornfield. Oh, nice. Did you want to say something?
No. You tell your story.
And so it had snowed this night, and there was snow out there, and she was talking about how big and badass and tough she was. And I bet her that she wouldn't run barefoot 100 yards out and 100 yards back. But by the time I could finish that sentence, her shoes were off and she was flash out the fucking door running through this cornfield. And then she came back and she like, where's my $100? And I was broke as fuck. I didn't have $100.
Honey, you still don't have $100. You're always broke as fuck.
But I feel like you have a nice house. You have a nice truck. I know you work too. I'm not taking away from what you do around the house, but I contribute to our fantastic lifestyle.
You don't think I contribute?
Oh, baby, you're the glue that holds this whole fucking log house together.
But you don't crawfish on a bet. You don't bet. That you don't.
So what do we have to do to settle this right now?
You need to give me what
have I not given you money over the last 20 fucking years?
Have I not given you money?
You have.
Okay.
I thought we were a team.
Thank you. But a bet is a bet, and it's totally different.
Okay, I'm going to tell you what.
Nope, I don't want to hear it. It's been 20 fucking years. Get over yourself now.
Listen to
crawfish, narcissistic.
Hypocritical,
narcissistic. Yeah.
You go get your fucking money on this goddamn podcast, and then you're going to shut your fucking mouth.
You've said that before.
You're going to shut your fucking mouth.
It hadn't happened in 20 years. It's not going to happen now.
2 things can happen. You can take one $100 bill or duct tape. Either way, you're shutting the fuck up.
Either way, you're shutting your mouth, bitch. Got you.
I'm kidding. I love you. I would never duct tape your mouth shut. Unless there was some sexual gratification in there. Without permission. So the next podcast we have an interview from is from Brew Crime. And these guys, I feel like, are a lot like me. Anybody who drinks during their podcast is definitely a fan in my book. And coming up is JT and Mike. And you may or may not notice a slight accent from Mike. Try to guess where this guy's from. Here's the interview.
Hey, my name is Mike.
And I'm JT.
And we're from Brew Crime Podcast. So, I'm out in Canada. He's out in the other side of the States. But, do true crime.
Yeah, we release weekly. We pick a genre. We pair a beer with each of our cases. And then there's one case per episode. And those come out. That's available anywhere where you get your podcasts.
And we usually will stick with a theme for 2 episodes. I'll do one. He'll do one. And then we'll usually take a bit of a palate cleanser in between. We've got Brew Crime News, which it's just, some of it's actually crime. Some's just ridiculous news from all over the internet.
It's a palate
drink
cleanser.
Beer and have fun because the cases aren't that fun.
The one question I have, is there more than 1 beer per podcast?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Look, I do about 3 when I do mine. So
when the one empties, you turn around, grab another one from the beer fridge. And Yeah.
Exactly.
You sound like my kind of podcast.
Heyo.
Favorite episode?
I was looking back just to double check, and I really found it interesting the Bloody Falls massacre in northern Nunavut territory in Canada.
Okay.
It happened, I think it was in 1771, and it's really interesting. There is some talk that it may not have actually happened. It might have been made up by a settler, but it's really interesting. A fight broke out between two different indigenous groups, supposedly,
Oh, wow.
and it's really interesting.
Yeah, I think it's the first one that I was ever on as a guest. And it was when we were doing conspiracies.
Yes.
And I covered the conspiracy of Saddam Hussein having a Stargate. And that's why he killed him. That's a real thing. That's the thing that happened.
That's awesome.
Yes.
That's awesome.
And I mean, Stargate's real, right? So he must have one.
Of course.
Well, not anymore, but
He had one.
Where can we find you guys at?
on all social media platforms at Brew Crime. We've got audio on YouTube, no actual videos really though, but you can find us there as well. We've got a group on Facebook.
Yeah, but everything's at Brew Crime.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, great.
yeah.
Yeah, and
Great. Well, I appreciate it. Any Patreon or anything where
We do.
people can donate?
patreon.com/brewcrime.
Man, all right. I am kind of looking forward to listening to one of your shows.
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, I hope you enjoy.
Yep. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you very much.
I think you're hard on a party dress. You just like you beat
I'm
the
very
fuck out
hard
of the
on a
mouse
party
pad.
dress because I can't get it to do what I want it to do.
So now you can see why I kind of wanted to interview Mike, right? I think Mike is really my speed.
He's like the Canadian version of you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mike.
Yeah.
Apparently you're a hypocritical narcissist.
No. I didn't say that about Mike.
Oh, no?
You know, as far as
Yes, I'm
drinking during
still
the
on
podcast. Yeah. See, your feelings are hurt. This is why I don't tell you what everybody
My
knows.
feelings are not hurt.
They are. They
I'm
are.
actually
I can tell.
I'm actually
Because
kind
you
of
keep
loving
bringing it up.
I just want you
because
to
you're
know.
looking for some sort of. That's why you keep bringing it up. Let me pat you on the back because you're a narcissist. That's what. I got
Yes.
you.
Blue
Got
ribbon
you.
and narcissism.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Oh my
That's
God,
exactly
you're fucking
what
great.
it is.
So say when I become a serial killer, you got the inside track. You could be like the true crime podcast on the Me Murders.
Yes.
The Me Murders.
Yes. Mrs. Always Right always knows what me is doing
So,
or knows who me is killing. I
That's
don't know.
right.
You know.
so I am. I can't wait to listen to their episode. Hey, go and see Brew Crime. Tell them me and Mrs. Always Right sent you. I appreciate that. So
Yes.
the next podcast interview we have coming up is kind of a little bit of a play on words here, right?
Yes. Yes. I
you-
think so. I mean, I knew immediately. Is
Did
that what you were going to say?
Yeah, the little bit of play on words.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
the next podcast is where in the world is crime in San Diego? And now that's stuck in my head.
You know, did you ever watch that? Your kids ever watch it?
I mean, I never sat down through a whole episode
I'm
of
not-
where in the world is Carmen San Diego.
right,
but,
right.
I mean, everybody knows it.
Right. Oh, yeah. I remember, the kids watching it and stuff. And I was just like, wow, this is really silly.
So coming up is Adrian and Miggy, right? Adrian's wife, Angie, is typically in the podcast, but she is with child, from what I'm understanding, and could not make the trip. We hope.
Did she fall and get pregnant? I mean,
you know
that's
what?
what they say.
Y'all
They
have been
fell.
you have been known to trip and fall and
It's
land
like,
on things. Is
I
all I'm
didn't
saying.
Fall pregnant. I'm sorry. That's not how it happened. But that's how
And-
people describe
And
it. all the time.
Adrian, Brent is a great name for a child. Is all I'm saying.
Oh, yes.
And he will not turn out to be a hypocritical narcissist. I promise.
Crawfish and
Crawfish and hypocritical. Don't leave that part out.
Gotta put that crawfishing in there.
That's
yes.
awesome. Here's our interview with Where in the World is Crime in San Diego.
Welcome to Where in the World is Crime in San Diego. We are a true crime podcast based out of San Diego, California. I am Adrian.
And I'm Miggy.
And then not with us today is my wife, who is 8 months pregnant, Angie, you see as pictured. And we started our podcast about 2 years ago, just as a passion project where we care about our community back home. And we just want to share community awareness. So we'll deal with episodes that deal with murder, missing people, persons, and even do PSA announcements where, say, if there's an increased crime in, say, for instance, DUIs or break-ins or even attempted kidnappings, that's where we like to spread awareness with the community.
And beyond that, at the end of each episode, we include a SBS or small business spotlight, and that helps us kind of connect with the community as well and share some of our favorite spots with all the listeners out there.
Yeah, so if you ever visit San Diego, we got you covered with, if you want to go to a bar, if you want to go clubbing, we got you. Restaurants, we also got detailing, bakers, you name it.
Flower shops.
We got you.
So what are the odds you'd give a small Texas podcast a shout out?
I mean, hey, we can. You want to?
I would probably, it would help go a long way.
Yeah, definitely.
So where can we find y'all at?
So you can find us on all social media platforms. We are, well, with the exception of TikTok. We are on Instagram. Where in the world is crime_San Diego? And we're also on Facebook. You can reach us at our platforms for podcasting on Apple, Amazon Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. We're out there.
Do you have a Patreon or anything people can?
We don't have a Patreon. We do have a YouTube channel as well. Looking where in the world is crime in San Diego? And yeah,
Like and subscribe.
Yeah,
Right, like and subscribe.
Like and
Leave a
subscribe.
comment for sure. So if I was a first-time listener, point me to which episode would you want me to come in with?
Honest,
Have a favorite?
I have a couple actually.
Okay.
There is Gringo Hunters, the very first episode.
Okay.
We also have my fun one was the Tankman, Mr. Tankman. I forget what number episode that is, but that's a really cool episode. Adventures, or what was it? There's so many now that I just forget.
Oh,
but
man. Okay.
But Tankman episode is a really interesting episode.
Awesome.
Miggy, what's yours?
I'd have to say my first episode that I did with you all.
Oh, the Killer Couples.
Yeah, the Killer Couples.
Killer Couples.
That was a Valentine's Day episode a couple of years ago. That I think is probably my favorite.
Awesome. Great. Thanks for taking the time. Let me get a couple of minutes of your time, and I'll talk to y'all in a little bit.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much.
So hear me out. Nothing against Adrian, but if I was a dude who was into other dudes, tell me Miggy is not the prettiest man you ever seen.
He looks very well kept.
Very well kept.
Yes. Ooh, kind of like the prom king.
Yes.
You know, he's got the prom king vibe about him. Yeah.
That's a dude you can tell who is very in tune with his appearance.
Yes.
And I'm
Some
just saying.
people are like that. Other people just wear braids.
Right?
Just saying.
So Bob Mott is my first man crush.
Yes. Okay.
Shody's my second man crush.
Okay.
But Miggy, if you want to come on in, I'll make room. I got big arms for big hugs. Okay?
There you go.
Big man hugs.
There you go. That's awesome.
No, I think it's really great how they focus on their city and their crime and their businesses, and they really want to promote what's going on there.
Yeah,
and
that's
be
awesome.
local. I do think that's great.
That is
Guys,
awesome.
keep up the great work. Okay,
Yes.
if we're ever out in San Diego, we are calling Miggy. Okay, to come and hang out. Right, and remember,
Wow.
Adrian. Brent
Yes.
is a great name for a child.
Yes.
No crush on anybody yet.
No.
He's just I just don't think your love hormones are there no more.
I love you.
Oh,
So,
thank you.
I mean, they got to be there. I love you. So,
the next podcast we have coming up is a couple of people who are into mental illness. I know they lost a sister from mental illness, and they've made it their passion to understand more of what happens with mental illness.
that's good. You know, get a lot of awareness out there. I feel sometimes that, you know, that awareness really needs to be out there. People are not, you know, they ignore it. It's like, oh, this people, you know, they got something going on. Instead of really trying to understand maybe what these people are dealing with.
I know firsthand that mental illness runs in my family. And of
you
course,
mental, all right.
I know. That's just it. I know I am,
No,
right?
I'm sorry.
But we went to a funeral recently, my grandma, and there were some discussions there about it. I got a close relative. I'm not going to isolate or anybody's names. This woman's crazy. And it's like, I think knowing that you're crazy is half the fucking battle. And once you know it, you can start working on it, right?
Right.
It's just that people who have mental illness, are they in denial that they have that illness?
Sometimes they are. Sometimes, and sometimes, let's say they get medication that helps them out, and so they
Is it mushrooms?
feel better. I mean, maybe it could be. So they start feeling better because the medication is helping them with whatever they've got going on. But so they stop taking the medication, and it's like a vicious cycle. So then, you get, possibly out there on a limb versus, maybe being more centered on the medication because, well, I feel better. I don't need to take the medication now.
Right.
And so it's a terrible cycle, but a lot of people go through it. It happens a lot.
I get it. So here's our interview coming up with Diagnosing a Killer.
Hello. I'm Coel.
And I'm Kenna.
And we are Diagnosing a Killer.
You want to tell everyone a little bit about us?
Yeah, so we are Diagnosing a Killer. We are two sisters, and we have a passion for true crime and mental health awareness. Kenna here is she's in her master's program for forensic psychology, so we're super excited about that. Can't wait for you to get that degree. And mostly we're just mental health forward when we talk about contributing factors to true crime cases, famous true crime cases, and talk about early life, maybe parental figures in their lives or, things that happened to them when they were little that might have been contributing factors to the crimes that they commit later in life.
Yeah, absolutely. We always like to say the expression, we are explaining, not excusing the crime. So we're trying to find a reason for it and in turn educate others so that we can have people able to spot the signs so that true crime doesn't happen in the future. If we had the knowledge that we had now, a few years ago, we may have been able to do things differently in our personal lives. So the podcast actually started because we lost our middle sister to mental health and mental illness. And we decided after that we were not going to be in the dark when it comes to helping someone that's struggling. And we wanted to educate ourselves, and it turned into educating others for that cause.
So where can we find your podcast?
We are anywhere on social media. We are on Instagram. We have Spotify, Audible,
Apple,
Patreon, Apple,
Buzzsprout,
pretty much anywhere you
can find podcasts. Yeah.
Now, do each of you have a different favorite episode?
Oh gosh,
or maybe
that's a lot.
Episode you enjoyed researching and you found out a lot about.
I think David Berkowitz was probably one of my more interesting research moments. I think knowing how. And everybody likes to say it's either a crock or it's not or whatever it was. But I think really what stuck with me about David Berkowitz is all the work that he's done to remain in prison because he truly believes that he is wholeheartedly responsible for everything that he did. And he tries to then use that as testimony and testify to others. And he preaches the word, if you will. He now chooses to be son of God instead of son of Sam. And I find that really interesting. I feel like I have a really deep connection to Shanann Watts. We have the same birthday, which is January 10th. So Shanann Watts is almost always in my thoughts. So the Chris Watts case was interesting.
I have two also, if we have time. So
take your time.
Our very first episode, I think, really highlights what we want to accomplish with the podcast. It's that of Andre Thomas, a man from Dallas, Texas. Very, very mentally ill. He was severe schizophrenia, but never got a diagnosis because he would consistently ask for help throughout his childhood, and he would be turned away, and ended up him on death row for the murder of his ex-wife, their child, and her newborn. And in prison, he did a lot of self-harm to himself because he was not properly medicated. Still on death row today. That one really hits home. And I think I speak for both of us when I say Columbine was a really, really heavy case. That one's actually on our Patreon. So if you want to listen to that one, you can go to patreon.com/diagnosingakiller. That one was very heavy, especially in the aftermath of the whole thing. She was kind of reading about like the survivors and what happened with them. Many of them committed suicide. Many of them developed mental illness from the experience, and it just broke both of our hearts. But it's super important to talk about that so people can get the assistance they need.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like you're both passionate about what you do, and I think that's great. So once again, Diagnosing a Killer?
Yes.
Right. And find that anywhere you get your podcast?
Absolutely.
Anywhere.
And Patreon is?
Patreon.com/diagnosingakiller.
Great. Thank you for your time.
Thank you
so much.
All right. Bye.
So that was Diagnosing a Killer. I do think that mental illness is very prevalent, but I have a feeling that the way we're treating and over medicating some of these people, I don't know if we're solving our problem.
I would agree.
And
absolutely.
maybe you guys can weigh in, especially if you watch this episode, and let us know. Leave a comment down there. Do you think we're over medicating, or is there a better way to treat mental illness? Once we get people to understand the problems they're suffering from, and I'm not saying everybody,
right?
I don't think I think some people absolutely need medication, but I do think that there are some things that we're not trying just because we don't necessarily agree that that's a proper treatment. I know I know mushrooms, psilocybin, some of the microdosing can rewire your brain. And I don't know. Do we try that? Is what we're doing working? That's what I want to know.
I don't know. Maybe legalize mushrooms, right? Are
I'm
mushrooms
for
legal?
it. No.
Oh, okay. I mean, I didn't know. I mean, they're like natural, so I mean, why would they not?
So is pot,
that's
right?
true. Never mind.
But I'm okay with pot too, right? In
Right.
moderation. I think anybody who's probably using every day, and no harm against you, right? I mean, I don't give a fuck how you live your life, but if you're medicating every day, there's something there.
Yes.
If
you feel you have to medicate every day, yes.
Like me, hypothetically, may medicate on weekends, camping trips, here and there,
It's possible.
And I just play around with it. And that's I think that's more socially acceptable.
Dabble.
But
Dabble. You dabble.
But you guys do a great podcast. I love your passion. I just, you're getting a degree, Kenna. Let us know. Are we over medicating? Are we over prescribing? That's just what I want to know.
Okay. All right. That's awesome.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it?
Absolutely.
I feel like I'm being a little judgy.
No. You would never judge people.
No.
Not you.
I'm not a judgy type person.
You are not judgy.
Never. I love how you hadn't changed your shirt in 3 episodes. Is that like your podcast shirt?
Yeah, apparently this is what I'm wearing always to the podcast.
Me too. It's like Mooney.
I know.
Did I ever tell you about the time I mooned? Yeah, I did.
What? Who'd you moon?
Paven.
Oh.
In the starfish.
Oh, yeah. You told us.
Go back and look for the starfish episode.
Is it called Starfish?
I think it is.
Oh, my God.
Oh, real quick. I had a comment today from somebody who said they listened to our Colorado trip. And he goes, yeah, it wasn't much about your Colorado trip. I'm like, I have no fucking idea what to name these episodes.
Nice.
Excuse me. I know. I'm going to edit that out. You know why?
Because you're an awesome editor.
Because I'm a professional editor.
Yeah,
that's right.
So, name them interview, part 1, part 2, part 3.
That's what we're doing.
I mean, it's just the easiest way, and make sure that I guess you have links to
I will make
whoever's in the episode, right?
I will make sure I drop links to every episode we put out proper on YouTube, right? The Patreons, look them up. You adults, okay?
Yeah. So, also let me know before we do this, and then whoever's like in the first episode, we can email them
and tag them on Facebook.
Yes, but I mean, you're gonna have to limit. Well, you normally do Facebook because you're just.
Well, we'll figure it out together.
We'll get it figured out, but we definitely.
Some of us are crawfish and hypocritical narcissists.
Yes,
right?
some of us are. Others are not.
Do you think you have any mental issues?
Oh, I'm sure I do. Do you think that I probably have not learned to maybe keep maybe small ones that I have in check?
I do. And, and I
don't know.
Think
I don't know if I have any. I don't know.
I think sometimes you hold a lot in.
I absolutely hold a lot in. Always.
And
always
that's a
have.
balloon. That's a balloon that's always going to burst. You understand what I'm saying?
I get it, but it's been almost 60 years.
Do I need to hire you a therapist?
No. No. I mean,
speaking of hiring a therapist, okay? If I ever if I'm ever hit by a truck
or a bus or garbage truck, yeah,
I need you to call our next interview, okay?
Okay.
So the next interview is Deranged by Jure. There are 2 practicing attorneys, one's criminal, one's civil. If I ever get hit by a truck, I need you to call Pisha. Okay?
Got you.
Got me.
And I love her name. I
Pisha?
love her.
I do
Pisha.
too. And,
How cool is that?
And Raven's the criminal attorney.
And,
so
and that's a cool name as well.
if
you
you're
know?
ever murdered, I know who I'm calling. So
Okay.
coming up next, here is the interview with Deranged by Jure, which means it's Latin for deranged by law.
Yes.
We learned that because
we
had to ask.
I did ask. Yes.
All right, here's that interview.
Hi, we're Deranged de Jure. I'm Raven. I'm joined with my co-host.
I'm Pisha, and I want to point out I am introducing myself correctly this time, which I normally don't do on our podcast.
Every single time.
It's really weird. It must be a tick at this point.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
we are two deranged lawyers discussing our deranged obsessions, which are many. And we get deep into these topics and we try to talk about the unknown facts of these things, the things that push our minds as two practicing attorneys when considering crimes, society, and pop culture even.
Deranged behavior.
Anything deranged. Like, we really want to do an episode on P. Diddy at one point. Like, that's pretty deranged, I'd say. So
I know y'all are both practicing attorneys.
Yes.
What got you into podcasting?
It started as a fun thing, to be honest. We needed a creative outlet. It's very difficult to be so technical all the time. It really kind of brings your personality in and it makes you feel, I don't want to say jaded, but the passion comes out more when you can find that creativity and it's not the day-to-day stuff that bogs you down as an attorney.
Right.
So
it's using a different part of your brain, I think, is being able to talk about the things that you care about. I mean, I'm a criminal defense lawyer. I am very passionate about what I do, but I also really love true crime. I love talking about, cults and all kinds of things like that. So it just gives a way to, I guess, express the narrative in just a different format. So,
well, and I'm a civil plaintiff's attorney, so completely different realm of law.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people miss in the true crime realm that there's another part of law that can lead to the solving of crimes. Like, if you can get your files through civil discovery, maybe it could lead to the solving of a crime. So I got into it because it was fun, it was a good outlet, and then all of a sudden I realized I could make an impact when a couple months into doing this, I realized my friend from Oregon went missing 2 years ago. We can do something now. We have a voice. We have a platform. We can do something. I'm getting goosebumps. Sorry.
You're okay.
Because it was just such a great moment of realizing I could have an impact doing this. It didn't just have to be fun and engaging process for me, but it could actually do something. So I think that's what I'm the most excited about for the future of our podcast is our series, which we'll be calling Swept Under. And it will all involve the disappearance of my friend Eric Brazil from Springfield, Oregon. So we want to do whatever we can to kind of reignite the fire under that investigation. We think getting the word out will do that. So that's why I'm in it now. I'm in it now because I really want to find my friend. And I have a vested interest in being here at the festival and meeting so many other victim advocates and survivor families. I want to help them too.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, if I'm a new listener, and I will be, give me an episode to start with.
I think you should start with the New Mexico prison riots. We did a series back in February, and we covered everything. We actually interviewed one of the attorneys who was directly involved with defending the people who were accused of the things that happened in the prison riot. It is gruesome. And so that's a trigger warning for you if you're out there and you don't want to hear the gritty details. We try and be somewhat sensitive. There's still people who are alive from that time, but it's fascinating. And we, talk about kind of the broader, impact of, prison riots in general. So.
Well, and to kind of piggyback off of that, we had to touch upon how gruesome this was because violence within our prison systems remains a huge problem. And this was the bloodiest, most gruesome prison riot in American history. And so we wanted to honor the factual gruesomeness of it, because I don't think people were shocked enough into making a change in our prison system.
Right, exactly. I think that's.
So, do you guys have a website? Where can I find your podcast at?
Yeah, we do have a website. We are at deranged.dejure. Oh no, I'm sorry.
Just kidding.
I'm like, wait a second. It's actually deranged de jure, all one word, .transistor.fm. You can find us on all of the socials as well. That'll link you there. And we're on Apple, Spotify, Google, all of Amazon, all of them. Our socials are all at deranged.dejure. You can find us on TikTok as well. So yeah, come and listen to us.
If I ever need a lawyer, I'm calling you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's absolutely her than you.
I was gonna say you'd have to get hit by a semi truck or something for me to help you out.
yeah.
I'm not over here.
If I do, I'm calling you.
You got it. I'm here for you.
The time today.
Hey,
man.
thank
I
you.
enjoyed talking to y'all. And
Yeah.
I'll see you next time around.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that was Deranged by De Jure, because apparently I mispronounced it.
Not by. It's
Deranged De Jure.
Yes.
Okay. Latin is not my thing. I am
I get it.
Deranged De Jure,
Yes.
and which means deranged by law.
Yes.
If you're ever in New Mexico and you commit a crime or you get hit by a truck, these are the two people you should call.
Call either one of those, Raven and Pisha.
Pisha. I just need to know, do you practice law in Texas? I may need a good attorney either way it goes.
Exactly. So if you travel to New Mexico, or you travel to Chicago, something. I mean, so you got
I'm starting
people
to get covered.
Yes. For all your worldly
Somehow
travels.
I feel though that if I have to call one of these attorneys, that they'll be like, "Yeah, still got to charge you though."
Yeah. Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, they still got to make their money.
And I'd be like, "How about a spot on a podcast with 9 fucking listeners? How about that?"
Exactly.
Word.
Or I can
Or-
buy you a gummy in Denver. I'm just
I mean,
saying.
she's not lying. So, hey, we appreciate you being here for part 3 of the True Crime and Paranormal Podcast interviews. Festival
Yes.
interviews,
Yes.
right?
Okay. Yeah.
If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, drop us an email at meandmrsalwaysright@gmail.com. All complaints go to Trevor the Intern.
You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and X.
And help support this podcast by becoming a member of Patreon at patreon.com/meandmrsalwaysright. There you will get pre and post show content right along with unedited episodes.
Yeah. And the reason why we're asking for money is, first of all, beer's not cheap. And second of all, do you realize how much tape we're using in this whole VCR thing? All these interviews.
I know. We're still recording on a VCR.
I'm just kidding.
Also, one of us has $100 bet to
One of us
pay.
might have a bet that they
$100
haven't
bet
paid
to pay.
in years. Yes.
Yes, we'd like to thank Rollcat Media for producing this week's episode. If you like what you see and you need audio or video editing, contact rollcatmedia@gmail.com. Do you like what you see?
I do. I think you've done a fabulous job.
We have grown. We have actually
yes,
grown a
because now we
lot.
have 4 listeners versus 2.
Four.
We've doubled.
Doubled?
We've doubled.
When you say it like that, it makes it sound so much better.
I know. We've doubled
All right.
in listeners.
We'll see you next week with part 4 and the final episode.
It will be the final one. There was a lot of people willing to give us interviews.
Yes.
And so, we actually took it. I mean, we
And
want to help these people out.
And I actually think we're doing really good in this. I think, we may or may not have found our calling by interviewing other podcasters.
I mean, there's so much you can do when it
So
comes
much
to
you can do.
podcasting.
All right.
So,
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
yes.
I love you, baby.
I love you too, honey.
All right. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Merle.
Merle.
I love Merle.
I love Merle.